Hey heroes, welcome back. Welcome to Extended Edition. We're going to be talking a few things today, actually, Ez. So we're going to be talking Chapter 35 of Fires of Heaven, and then we're going to kind of go. You and I were talking about off the air here. We were just kind of like, I don't really. There's no real way to sort of, I guess, title this, except for like where the are like all these are some of these characters, characters who we've seen and we're like they're made out, they feel like they're going to be a big deal, and then it's like, where are these guys even at again, right? Like, what happened to this guy? It seems so far away. And so kind of a recap of where some of these people are.
Just real quick, because you brought this up and I thought this is very fitting, and people who have read the series, number one, will say, okay, I get why in the Fires of Heaven Matt is asking that question. Where is everyone? Why is this? It feels like a whole thread has been left out of this book, and he's feeling that as we're into part 4. So just a reminder, we're at chapter 35 right now, and we're going to cover kind of these other misfit characters. I call them the come and go characters. They come in, then they go. Where do they go? When do they come back? And it's sort of a little bit of a catch up, but I'm going to pull them up on the, I'm going to pull up their wiki pages to kind of help me out.
Right. I can't because it'll be far too, spoiler for me.
Yeah. So Matt will take us through like just kind of chapter 35. I'll throw some commentary in there on that, and then we'll pull these characters up and talk about them.
Yeah, absolutely. So chapter 35 is Ripped Away. Elaine is watching Nynaeve sleep. She still thinks it is ridiculous the one who isn't visiting the world of dreams is to stay awake. There is nothing she can do anyhow. Elaine's thoughts wander to the making of Terran-Grial. Nynaeve wouldn't be happy if she knew Elaine considered making an Adam. She thinks about her conversation with Tom and about the great game, too. Suddenly, Nynaeve sits up in her bed. Tears are coming from her eyes. Elaine considers waking her up, but Nynaeve makes the choice for her. She cries and claims that she has killed her. Before Elaine can figure out who Nynaeve is talking about, Tom and Julian knock on the door. Nynaeve wants to send them away, but before Elaine gets any chance, Tom pushes into the wagon with an unconscious and naked Birgitte in his arms. He says that she appeared out of nowhere and thinks she is dying. Elaine tells the man she is a friend and works them out of the wagon. Nynaeve, certainly angrily enough to channel, tries to heal Birgitte. She weaves ever more intricate flows, but she can't find anything wrong with the woman, just that she is fading. Elaine tells Nynaeve to stop. She has an idea and wants to try it. She has only seen the weaves 2 times, but she is sure she can do it. Before Nynaeve can ask what she has in mind, Elaine weaves the flows to bind Birgitte to her as a warder. Mm-hmm. The benefits of the bond seem to be enough to save Birgitte. When Nynaeve doesn't like the idea of an accepted bonding a female warder, she has to admit it works. The 2 women now discuss the implications of Birgitte being torn out of the world of dreams. She can't be reborn in time to meet Gill now. How will this affect the pattern? And what about Mogideon? Does she die? It seems unlikely. Birgitte missed the heart, so the wound could have been healed. This means the Forsaken probably has a good idea of where to look for them now. Of course, with 15 menageries in the area, it won't be easy to find them. They still have some time to figure out how to get away. Nynaeve is still very upset and decides to go for a walk. Elaine decides Birgitte probably needs her more now and stays in the wagon to watch the sleeping woman. Yeah. Now, as we were talking about this a little bit, whenever we recorded a few days ago on the podcast, just because of when we record these. Mm-hmm. But Birgitte is pulled out of the world of dreams and is dying. And now she's a warder. And this is one of those things where it gets super complicated, because it's like, well, what if you pull somebody out of the world of dreams, like a regular person, and then you have like a woman take another woman as a warder? Because I don't think we've seen that yet. And then you have the level of, well, she's a hero of the Horn. So what implications does that have, in all of this?
Yeah. So let me read something to you just a little bit, because I didn't get a chance. I know we talked about in the podcast to really go back and look up kind of the whole Teleron Riyadh situation, but let me just talk about the heroes and how they're kind of bound to it. So, because she does address that, I think it's now, or it's coming up here very shortly. So she'll talk about... It's
coming up in the next block of chapters, yeah.
Right, which will be okay then. So just, maybe minor spoiler. I'm not so sure here exactly. Can't I just know in this book, I know she talks about this more because now she's in our story. She's with us. She has been pulled out, sacrificed herself, and like as you said, the healing doesn't quite work. So it is the warder bond that is able to kind of save her life, if you will. And I really wish I would have done a little bit because in the chapter, I think Mo Gideon tells us what she's trying to do to like guide O'Kane, and then even what she does to Silverbow here is not a good thing. So she answered the call, right? Battle of Falma. She answers the call when Matt blows the horn. When not being woven into the pattern or fighting in spectral form, she and all of the other heroes of the wheel reside in the dream world. So she glimpses of Gawain while she's hunting for the Black Aja. Later, she makes her acquaintance with, several. Perrin runs across her. Remember that? I think it was last book, right? Perrin runs across her. Elaine, Nynaeve now. Elaine and Nynaeve are hunting the Dark Friends in the World of Dreams or the Forsaken, what have you. And despite all of these warnings and stuff, they still move forward with it. And Brigette is there trying to watch over them. So let's see. And also Guide O'Kane is there trying to remember the warnings that she was getting from him, kind of saying like, hey, you need, like, this is not what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Right. Like you shouldn't be doing this. So we can tell she's kind of tampering and doing things maybe that she shouldn't be doing outside of her role, if you will. So yeah, anyway, let's see. Yeah, so ultimately, just by stepping out of that role, right, this leads eventually to a confrontation with Mo Gideon, who, fulfilling her promise of revenge, expelled Brigette from the dream world directly into the waking world, preventing her from being reincarnated as she normally would be. Because you've heard her say, like, that they're spun out. From time to time, they'll live these lives. Tom, in the beginning of the story, was talking about that as well. So now she has basically forced her out. She's done something to force her out of the dream world. So I don't think I don't even know that I have the answer on what type of, clearly she would have.
What the situation is.
Yeah. And what the overall consequences of that are. I mean, she's going to talk more about that in our next batch of chapters as well. The more we're around her, you're going to learn more about the heroes of the Horn, their role, how she can help, how she maybe was going against some of the, I forget what they call them, like the pretenses or whatever, like the setup kind of rules for the heroes that are bound. So we'll learn more about that as we go on. But bottom line, she's kicked out and she has to be saved by Elaine. And so now she is bonded with her and she's going to serve as her warder. And she's, stuck in that kind of, stuck in that role. I think she has a lot of respect for Elaine. And have you read on past any of this, past 35? Just a little bit?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
All right, cool.
I'm going to start. Yeah. But
no, that's fine. That's fine. Because then I won't say, there's some cool conversations that come up between her and Nynaeve, which is, because, I mean, remember, like, Nynaeve is feeling terrible, tried to save her, tried to heal her. Also, that's going to piss Nynaeve off a lot too, right? That she wasn't able to use the power. She has to get angry. And even when she is angry, she's kind of, being a wisdom, she was a healer. She's someone who you would bring in, you would bring the sick to her, and she was a wilder channeling the power. So she's a little frustrated that she wasn't able to do this, and Elaine was able to save her. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's cool. It's super cool because now Brigette is, like, we're going to see her a lot more. I'm assuming, right? Not just in the world of dreams. And then is this going to have any implications going forward? Hey, we pulled, in a way, sort of pulled somebody out of the dream world.
Yeah, and what I'll do is, remind me next episode, I'll go in and I'll try to see exactly what she says about her lives and being spun out, and what she says about being bound to the dream world and how the heroes kind of work in that capacity, because she does talk about that a little bit. And I think she even already has, and I just don't remember exactly what she said. So I'll kind of next episode bring that to you guys, because it's just buried in the midst of all this, But yeah, it's really cool. I think this is neat because you now have a hero who is Right? I mean, like, this is kind of, this is not something you would
Yeah.
expect, right? Like, you blow the horn, you summon the heroes,
No.
but this is one that was helping them along the way. And now she's ripped away and she's with our group and she is a hero. And it's just kind of cool, you know?
Yeah. Okay, Ez, let's move to the next part of what we're going to be kind of discussing today, which is we got a handful of characters here, and it's like, just where are they at? Like, what's going on with some of these people? And this is the way it goes sometimes. It feels like a character gets introduced, you feel like they're going to be a big deal, and then maybe like they're gone, and you're like, what's going on? And I think it's because we shift perspective so much, and then sometimes it's like Rand and Avienda just went from the Aiel Waste to Shan Shan. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
You can
just
do that?
jumped
Yeah.
all the way. So, right. So you miss some of these people and then what's going on. So anyway, so we're going to start with Huron, the Sniffer.
The Sniffer. Yes. So, okay.
He's a big deal in the Great Hunt. And then
yeah.
where's he been?
Where has he been? So these are what I call these like come and go characters who, and just to, again, to frame this for anyone, whether you're on YouTube or in the podcast, extended edition, what have you, we're talking about come and go characters who they show up for a bit, and Sir Matt in his first read through is going, where is that character? Why haven't I seen him in such a long time? So it's just kind of a reminder as to where some of them are. And I guess as Matt pulls them out or calls them out, I'm going to try to pull up their wiki pages and talk about where they're at. And I've advised him not to pull that up because you can read one line past, you know, where we last left them, and it might give you something. For example, Huron's story. Right now, all we know is he went back to Faldara and he's there. So after the Great Hunt and after he does have this whole battle there at Falma, he kind of, the way he talks about Lord Rand and then Lord Dragon, I mean, he just has this reverence for him and for, like the Shannarans are kind of, they've been fighting the fight, right? He's a borderlander who's been fighting the fight. And so if this is someone who could come help win that fight or who could prepare them for the last battle, they really seem to revere and have respect for the prophecies and people who might come to fulfill them. And Huron was there to see it. And that's why it's just so epic. Plus, my favorite character, in the first half of the series is Ingtar. And even though he's only in the first two books, but he's with, that whole group as they travel and try to find the horn, but he's sent back and he spreads word about Rand. But that's it, man. That is as far as I can tell you on Huron. That's where he's at, back in Faldara, stays there.
That's just it.
That's where he's at for now. Where we're at, boom, that's where he is. This is gonna be kind of more of a, where did we leave that person? Where did we last see them? Yeah. So
right. Okay, so I guess sort of two here. We can kind of group these two together. Let's go with Elias and Aram.
Okay, yeah, right. So we saw Elias. This was in the Great Hunt again. The Eye of the World, right? Originally, yeah.
Originally, yes.
Yeah.
He's with the Tinkers, and he teaches, and he kind of tells Perrin about, hey, this yellow eyes, the wolves.
Yeah, Wolf Brother. Yeah, he is something else. So, I mean, he's the guy who kind of, just by telling Perrin that he has these powers and explaining to him why he can sense the wolves and why he can speak to them, he was there as they were traveling kind of in Andor. They get separated from Moraine and Lan and Nynaeve come to rescue Perrin and Egwene, but I think where we are in part right here in the middle of the Fires of Heaven, Elias has just after that, I believe, just he's just gone. Let's see. After an attack by White Cloaks, Elias is injured and Perrin and Egwene are captured. That's it. That's what we know. That is up to this point, Sir Matt. We know that's the last marker. So what you're saying, the reason we're doing this too is to say, what happened to that guy? He was a big deal for Perrin, and he's been out of the story for how many books? Like 3 books? Not mentioned. Will he come back again? And one of the reasons I think that we had this conversation and we started with this is, remember when we were plugging along and Bail Dolman in Eye of the World is the ship captain who's taking them down to, is it Four Kings or White Bridge? Do he's taking Rand and Matt down the river, and Bail Doman shows up again and again and again in different places. He's always traveling and moving around. He's in Falma. He's the captain. Remember that. So sorry, I'm jumping ahead here. I'm gonna cover him while I'm talking about it.
No, that's fine. You're fine. Yeah.
This is one of those guys where you're like, okay, let's say Elias shows up in this next batch of chapters, or Huron or whatever. Matt would go, where was this guy? Where has he been this whole time? What's he been doing? And sometimes that character will catch you up on where they've been. But for right now, it seems like it's been so long. I mean, honestly, right now we're saying, where the hell is Perrin? You know, why? We're like...
Exactly.
Right? We left Perrin and Fael back in the Two Rivers after an epic battle, and we've got Padon Fane who was leaving there and headed to the White Tower doing his thing. So Bail Doman, I'll come back to him in a second, but he's been bouncing around. He stimulated a lot of this conversation. Elias, we left him after the attack by the White Cloaks when Perrin was captured. So I mean, does he? I'm not even going to answer for you. Does he come back? That's just where we left him. The other one, Aram, right? Is that what you said?
Aram.
Yeah,
Aram or Aram, yeah.
Yeah, I say it.
I think they go back and it's one of those.
They go back and forth. I swear to God, the audiobooks mess me up so much sometimes. So yeah, he's a Tuatha. He's one of the Tinkers. He renounces the way of the Leaf after he witnesses a Trolloc attack on his band in which his mother was killed. So remember in was it the Shadow Rising? Yeah. When he's the Tinker with the sword. He picks up the sword, and Perrin, it's in the midst of all of that, right? Yeah, and he's just like, he's going to show him, Tam Althor, seek out Tam, and he'll show you how to use the sword. And like, Aram is right there with him. He is like he's Perrin's man. Remember, when he first meets Aram, Gawain, it was kind of like what did you call it? Like a love interest. It seemed like there was something going on there.
Yeah, a little bit there, yeah.
Yeah, he's
she
attractive,
dances with him, right?
Yeah,
in Eye of the World.
Yes, dances with him. He's attractive. The way of the Leaf and this way of peace and happiness and whatever, it's very positive. It's very appealing and very attractive, and it's actually one of the reasons why, like, the Tuatha are kind of kept away from coming way into a city or a village, because the people. I mean, like, Gawain is attracted to that. Also, there's rumors that they, steal and they're not whatever. I mean, there's just a lot of different stuff that's not really true about them, but they're kind of shunned in a sense. But yeah, so she has a great time with him, and Perrin is sort of like, that's when he has the whole thought about Matt and Rand being better with girls, and he wishes they were there so they could kind of help him. But yeah, Aram, I think the last place we see him is in the Two Rivers, Emond's Field. And he's there. He's picked up a sword, and he's renounced the way of the Leaf.
Way of the Leaf.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ez. Let's keep moving on here. Again, this refreshers for me, and hopefully for some people out here
and for me,
as well. All right. So let's go with the twins here, Galad and Gawain.
Yeah.
I know that it's like we've heard about them doing stuff, a little bit. Like there's some stuff going on, but really the last thing that jumps out to me in terms of seeing them is both of them getting wrecked.
Right. With Matt, right? Yeah. And so there's not much has been mentioned about them. That was a big moment where Matt wakes up from being healed by the dagger, and then he goes out, he's got his quarterstaff, and he lays a smackdown on Gowen and Galad. Like, that's just what happened. It's great. And there's the whole legend about the last time a sword master was beat, etc. So let's start with the one I got pulled up here, Galad. So let's start with Galad, because we did just come across him in this last batch of chapters. He hasn't shown up, but it was mentioned that he's with the White Cloaks, and I think that's Ebudar. Let me make sure real quick. He's near the Prophet. So let's see, joining the children. Here we go. I'll read this bit to you. Well, let me back up a little bit. So he meets Egwene Alvear for the first time at the White Tower. This is just to kind of cover his story. He develops an attraction to her. Remember that Galad is the half-brother to Elaine and Gawain, Queen Morgaze. He fits in with the whole royal Andor family. He's concerned when the girls go missing. He tries to question the girls on where they disappeared to. He and Gowen, they spar with Matt. Matt beats the both of them with a quarterstaff. Morghese comes to the White Tower, and when she finds that her daughter is missing, she becomes furious. Galad and Gawain managed to talk her out of like taking them away from the White Tower, because she was like ready to like pull all of her, all of them back, just because she's so mad about where's her daughter, right? You should be able to show up and find the queen's daughter. Like, it's crazy that she went. We said this before. It's crazy that she went and was hunting down the Black Aja, right? Now, okay, joining the children. So while training to become a warder, he begins to have a few drinks with white cloaks. He's given a book. Let's see. So it was around the split of the tower. And I don't know that this is exactly stated yet. And this is where it gets tricky because there's so much text. I think he talks to us about this in upcoming chapters. But like, all we know is that he has joined up with the White Cloaks. And remember, Galad is the one who will do what is right no matter what, even if it's detrimental to himself or his family. If he believes it to be good, he's what we call chaotic good or whatever.
Chaotic good. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
somebody that's chaotic good is like, the easiest way for me to describe it is in the Dark Knight, or no, the Dark Knight series, right? With Batman, right? Remember Batman Begins, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Batman Begins, Ra's al Ghul, right? Liam Neeson is like, I will purge Gotham of evil by like destroying it, right? So that's sort of like the ultra scale of chaotic good. Now, really, he's kind of a bad guy, but it's that sort of like mentality of like, well, we have to root out evil. Like, I mean, you could make an argument that Batman is chaotic good, right? Where he's, like breaking guys' necks and stuff, but same thing. But even then, that's sort of chaotic good. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's something that Elaine almost sees as kind of dangerous, just that, like, he's going to do whatever it takes to do the right thing as he sees it. So that righteousness or that zeal or whatever you want to call it, that the White Cloaks are, fighting for the light, and everything that they preach and their kind of doctrine sits well with him. Now, their actions and stuff like that, maybe not necessarily, but like, what they believe, and when you read it, right, when you look at what the White Cloaks should be, fighting against dark friends, all this kind of stuff, like, okay, you can get on board with that, but then when you watch what they do and they go into cities and towns, you're like, the White Cloaks are trash, like they are terrible. And it's actually Jeffrey Bornhold in The Great Hunt who kind of is he talking to Child Bayar, and he kind of says like, to check his zeal a little bit, like make sure you're not overzealous and things like that. It's a characteristic that he sees more and more in the White Cloaks. So they could be great, but right now they're not necessarily. And Galad has joined up with them. I think it's Samara is where they've heard that he's at near the Prophet. So we haven't quite got to him yet, but we've heard rumor as to where he's at. So I guess that's where we'll leave him. And then let me bounce over to Gowen. Recently, so we know, again, same thing with Galad. He had the whole fight with Matt. Let's see. Yeah, during the Tower coup, he supported Elaida by preventing the attempted rescue of Suan, the deposed Amerlin's seat. He became the head of a group of former warder trainees known as the Younglings. All right. Let's see. During that time. Yeah, where do I get to the part where he... Oh, they don't really talk about it. Okay, it's not really on the wiki, but remember, he helps... he allows men to get, like, Suan and Leanne out. He helps them kind of leave the tower. And that's like the last little bit that we see. He's kind of struggling with like what to do. He knows Min and how close she is with his sister and so on, and trusts her. So ultimately he helps them escape. And I think that's the last spot we have him at, was there at the tower with the Younglings. So, yeah.
All right, let's move over to, we have a couple people left. We can get this easy one out of the way, is Perrin. Right, it's like, we haven't seen Perrin, who's supposed to be like one of our main characters this entire book.
Yeah, remember, we're in Fires of Heaven, and so any of you who have read the series are going to be nodding your heads. Yeah, where's Perrin? Not around. Not here. He's mentioned, right? I mean, the characters talk about Perrin and things like that, but it's even when you get to Morghese, the queen, and what's going on with Gabriel, Lord Gabriel, and the rebellion that took place on the edge of Andor. Is that really even in there? Is that even the Two Rivers, even a kingdom? Is that, all of that? Is it even part of their kingdom anymore? I don't know. That's all stuff that they're kind of questioning in Camelin, but that's all we really hear. We just hear kind of rumors about them, and we haven't had any word from the Two Rivers. So the only person we've gotten from there is Podon Fane. Remember, Podon Fane shows up to Elida and
sort of looking over it.
Right. Getting after the dagger. So,
okay, let's go to one of Ezra's favorite characters, Basil Gill.
Okay, yeah, Master Gill, yeah. So he is the innkeeper of the Queen's Blessing in Camelin. He's a good Queen's man, right? We see him Eye of the World, right? It's when you first kind of have Loyal. By the way, you say the name Loyal, and it's like, when's the last time you saw that Ogier? We had so much Ogier lore going on, and Loyal was helping out in the Two Rivers.
Loyal, where is Loyal right now?
He was with Perrin. Remember,
he was with Perrin. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's there too.
Took Fael through the ways. Yeah, a whole batch of characters stuck there on the Two Rivers that are just not getting out. Okay, so Master Gill is the last. Let me see if we've got to this part yet. This is going to be tricky for me because I know where he goes and what he does. Who he is, I'll say this to be careful because I can't remember honestly whether we've covered Queen Morghese in her arc. He is in Camelin. All right, he's in Camelin. He is kind of one of those come and go characters. He's a cool character. It's a cool inn, and he's a loyal Queensman. And we know that in this book we've been talking a lot about Morghese and some of what is going on in Camelin with her. So I just mentioned the rumors, and I think it was a Gabriel. There was a chapter where she was kind of having some issue with Gabriel and was possibly, doing things against her will, if you will. So that's where he's at. Okay. We'll just say that he's in Camelin and he's close to Queen Morghese. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. How about Bail Doman?
Bail Doman. Okay. Let me pull up old Bail Doman because he's all over the freaking place, man. That's the funny thing with him is when he shows up, you're like, where was he last? Okay, so Captain, let's see, originally Captain of the Spray. He's broad, muscular. He's got a long beard. When they read Bail Doman in the, he's got like that. Is it an Ileaner accent or whatever? He's got like that. I forget who. Michael Kramer reads the audiobook for us, and so he sounds just straight up like a pirate. It's awesome when you hear Bail Doman.
Yes.
He helped Rand and Matt and Tom escape the Trollocs near Shadar Logoth. That was in the first book. Let's see. Then it's with the Shanchin. So he's also there waiting with Nynaeve, and he's trying to help. He's supposed to be the ship that's like ship captain that's waiting for them if they can free a Gawain. So Elaine and Nynaeve are holding him up, saying if we can get her out, we can get on that ship with him, and he can help us kind of, get away. Let's see. Yeah, the escape plan does not work, but he manages his own escape during the confusion during the battle with the Shanchin, and he heads for Tanchico. So as a captain, Doman is he makes all these different, he's running different like shipments and stuff, and he's still trying to make a living. He shares all of his profits with his crew. Something interesting about him. So when you look for somebody who's trying to smuggle, think of like Han Solo. This is a guy who can smuggle some goods and get you in and out of some tight spots. So kind of a scoundrel character. He's loyal. When Egwene, Min, and Nynaeve and Elaine, let's see. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, that was in Falma. Tanchico. Let's move there. So he helps them. Remember when there's all that issue going on with the Panarch, and you've got Elaine and Nynaeve, Tom and Julin. They're in Tanchico, and they're trying to figure out what the Black Aja are doing. He is there kind of around all of that. he and his men also kind of create like a distraction, a disturbance outside the Panarch's palace, and it allows Nynaeve and Elaine to go in there, fight the Black Aja, and rescue the Panarch and get her out of there. So if I'm misremembering any of that, he's also the one who is, one of the Shanshin. Who's figured out the secret of the Adam and how you can basically, like, a Suldam is someone who can channel. He recognizes a Shanshin because he was there at Falma and he recognizes her. And so I think that's the last place. Let me just make sure here. Let's see. Yeah, after entering the Panarch's palace in Tanchico and successfully acquiring another of the seals. That's right. And the bracelet. He had planned to move his fleet away to a new location. Okay. Let's see.
So you can't go much further then.
I think
something big's about to happen.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I think so. So remember, when he's in Falma, I think it's like I forget the guy's name, but one of the lords there was kind of going over what he had collected. He's a collector of ancient things. And so the seals, right? One of the things that Nynaeve realizes is that she found a seal when she was in the Panarch's palace, and she's fighting Mogideon, and they look for the Adam. They've got that, and yeah, so he's involved in all of that, and then from there he moves his fleet elsewhere, and then he's about to get into some more stuff. So Bail Doman is definitely a come and go character. He shows up and you're like, holy smokes. But he's one of those characters who...
And then he's gone.
Yeah, and he's secretive, and he seems to be... If you... Like, paying attention to some of the items that he collects and who he's associated with and where he is, he's one of those guys, like, if you want to get information on a different region, the author will use him to take us to that region and explain through his eyes what's happening with the Shanshin. The emergence of the Shanshin coming back, what's happening with them. And while we're clear over in Kyrian, right, and Two Rivers is just settling there, like, think west and southwest of the Two Rivers or Andor, and that's where Bail Doman seems to be the majority of the time, and he's dealing with a lot of the Shanshin. So, yeah. Good God. Okay. Who else we got? I'm like, this is crazy.
Okay. I think we only have one left, and this is one. Man, you want to talk about somebody else? You're like, as soon as we were trying to pick out who ought to put on this list. As soon as we said the name, we were like, seriously, Varen.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
right.
She's like teaching the girls, and it's like, hey, she's pretty happy. And the other thing is, we don't know. At this point, we don't know if Varen even knows that the White Towers have been taken over in a coup.
Right. So, yeah, that is interesting. So she, like other members of the Brown Aja, they're devoted to, like, knowledge and understanding, and they're very book heavy. So she was traveling with, in the Great Hunt, she was kind of the guide, the Aes Sedai that was guiding them, and we really got to know Varen pretty well. She's around the three Ta'veren, studying them, thinks they're fascinating, and her whole thing is to kind of stay near one of them and to investigate them further. Originally, she goes into the Two Rivers to kind of say, okay, well, if Egwene and Nynaeve come from this place and they're so strong that old blood is bringing forth, like, strong channelers, let's go there and see who else we can find. So she's thinking maybe that's a gold mine of channelers, and she goes there, and lo and behold, one of the Ta'veren show up, and it's Perrin coming from Tyr through the ways with Loyal there to kind of save the Two Rivers in Emond's Field. So I think I don't think she's been mentioned as moving on. I think she is still, let me just triple check here. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, do not go look at her page.
I'm not.
So
I'm not looking at anybody's page.
Yeah, good. Let's see. Oh yeah, remember? Man, you're right, quite a role. Because remember at Falma, she was there, and she actually is returning to Tar Valon with Elaine, Egwene, and Nynaeve, and Matt. She personally takes Matt back to help him be healed. I forgot about that. She was a part of that group. Yeah, she's very. So then, after she gets them back to the White Tower, then she goes to the Two Rivers. She goes with Alana Masvani, one of the Greens. So there, yeah, two of them there. They discover many of the girls having the potential to channel. Matt's sister, Bode Cawthon, can channel. She helps Perrin fight the Shadow Spawn there at Emmons Field. Let's see. Oh, she's studying Ta'Veren, like the nature of Ta'Veren and what does Perrin's effect have on those around him. Let's see. Oh boy, there's some stuff with prophecy in here and Perrin and fulfilling the prophecy. It's crazy. Okay, let's see. We see from her. Okay, so she muses about a portion of the Koreathon cycle, which is the prophecies of the dragon and those around him. And one of the lines from that, and this is, I think this is okay to cover because it was in The Shadow Rising. One of the lines is, "When the Wolf King carries the hammer, thus are the final days known." So I forgot. See, this is such attention to detail. You go back and she's analyzing that one line and looking at Perrin, possibly, not sure, but wondering whether or not Golden Eyes is the Wolf King. Hammer, axe, when does he pick up which? Perrin himself is struggling with like the axe or the hammer, which one? So she's kind of wondering about that, musing about it, if you will. She's very interested in the three Ta'Veren and expresses a desire to kind of study them further. Basically saying even if she would, I think she says this in the Shadow Rising, that she would marry one of them if that meant keeping her close enough to study them. So she is devoted to checking into, their abilities and stuff. I mean, to have three Ta'Veren, like she talks early on, I think it's in book 2, about Ta'Veren and the nature of, to have 3 in one town and one place is like unheard of. And so kind of a big deal to look into.
Okay.
Man,
it's interesting. All these people, there's just so many people you just forget about them because you're just like, who is this? What's going on? Where are they at? And then you have to like do these refreshers.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And there's other ones.
I'm sure there's plenty more characters we could talk about. Yeah.
Oh sure. I was trying to think of a few more just off the top of my head. But I think we'll kind of, because I need to go look them all up too. But yeah, there's so many like in tier. So we just got to a batch of chapters as well where a lot of and it happened very quickly, but it was in the Dragon Reborn. If anyone's at this point, you want to go back and look a few things up, I think that are safe to look up and refresh your mind on Rand's dealing with the Tyrant Lords and what he says to them and the plotting that's going on in Tyr, because when he left Tyr, he had sent some of them to Cairhien to arrange some trading and some, supply chains and all that kind of stuff. And then the Shido, where we're at right now, have attacked Cairhien, and those same Tyrant Lords are showing up here with Rand, the ones he had sent a couple books back. So, that's a big connection. But they're such small characters, and they're mentioned so quickly that you're like, come on, am I gonna remember that guy? No, I'm not gonna remember who that guy was.
Right.
But
well, yeah, and I was thinking about this whole deal because it was when we were recording the episode and we started talking about Couladin for a bit. It's like he's one of these people, who I feel like it's gonna be the same thing. Hey, what 2 books from now, I'm like, what happened to Couladin? Right, like he was, big deal. He's like,
yeah. Now another, and we just kind of talked about characters, air quote, in the light. I know I mentioned Padon Fane and maybe a few other people who whatever. But go take a look for a second at the Forsaken and watch how you kind of jump, when a Forsaken shows up, or when like Nynaeve just came across the Forsaken having their little council, and Mo Gideon's not even a part of that. She's watching and listening in on the same 4 or 5, like Grendel, Lanfear, Ravine. Who else is there? Samael is there. There's probably one more I'm missing, but they're there and they're having this little plot. So even when we look at Lanfear, I know we talk about this a lot. It's like, the many disguises of Lanfear. Where has she been? When does she pop up? What is she saying? What's her motive? Then you throw in Osmo. So where we're at right now is she's got Osmodian close to Rand and training him, and she's running her own scheme because we see her then talking to Ravine and others, and they're trying to put Samael out there to possibly bait Rand into something. Samael says that he's worried that he's being used as a lure, as a bait, essentially. So he's almost extended himself too far. And Rand has, if we follow Rand in his chapters, he's been thinking a lot about him as well. So it's even kind of tricky sometimes to keep track of all of those Forsaken, because they don't, when they show up, it's a big deal. It's a big moment. And we're like, oh, snap. You know, like here they are, or a dark friend is revealed. And it's like, what the heck? So that's like a whole separate video we could do just on like tracking the Forsaken and when they show up, and, you know, keeping track of all of that. It's very much Robert Jordan's intent, I think, and when he was writing this, to keep us kind of confused and to keep us kind of guessing, and almost having to refresh our memory. Like, wait, where was that character at last, and who was he talking to? And sometimes a character on the opposite side, like Nynaeve, is interacting with Moghedien all this time, and it's like she can tell Egwene about Moghedien. That's really their fight. And then Rand is also fighting other Forsaken. And sometimes you have a Forsaken bounce between the two. And so it's a lot to keep track of. And I think it's fun to go back and kind of like try to figure out where everybody's at. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's just the way it goes. I mean, there's just too many characters, I guess, to keep track of everyone. And it just feels like every book we're like, well, it's like, you know, Dragon Reborn, or like, it's called The Dragon Reborn and Rand's not in it. And now here we are.
Yeah.
And then it's like Perrin's not in it. So it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, all right, guys. Hey, well, that's us, an extended edition today. So let us know if there's anybody else you guys would like us to sort of go over and say, what happened to this guy? What happened to him? What happened to her? Or, you know, I mean, Narg's still out there, or, you know, I mean, like,
yeah. Why not? Next we'll start going over all the different, you know, Shadow Spawn, and then no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's crazy. I think it's a really, I want people to leave us a comment. Let us know if there is a character you want us to focus in on. We still have a couple, you know, for our, over on Patreon, we're going to have a couple more of these characters that we profile, and we track their whole arc as we get deeper into the series. It's a good refresher for us. This was kind of a big batch, just as a reminder. So yeah, pretty cool.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Hey, with that, we want to thank you for supporting us here on Patreon. Thank you for listening. And remember that the grave is no bar to our call.